there is something that almost every health-conscious person does every single morning before they eat, before they drink water, before they do anything else. They make coffee. And for years, you have been told that coffee is good for your liver. You have seen the headlines, heard it from doctors. You may have even used it as a justification to have one more cup. Here's the thing, that is partially true. But nobody is telling you the other half of that story. The half that might explain why you wake up exhausted after a full night of sleep, why your digestion feels off before 10 a.m., why your energy crashes right when you need it most, and why, if you have had recent blood work done, your liver enzymes are quietly moving in the wrong direction. I am not here to take your coffee away. I drink coffee. I am keeping mine. What I am going to do is show you exactly what is happening inside your liver every time you drink it, and which specific habits turn a potentially protective drink into a source of daily, silent damage to one of the most important organs in your body. By the end of this video, you will know which version of coffee is hurting your liver, which version is actually beneficial, and the exact 5-step protocol to keep drinking coffee without paying for it later. Stay with me through block 6. The fix is simpler than you think, and most coffee drinkers have never heard it. Now, the coffee protects your liver story is not made up. It is based on real research. And that is precisely what makes it so easy to get wrong, because a half-truth is much harder to question than a complete lie. Here's where it started. Researchers looked at large populations of regular coffee drinkers and found lower rates of cirrhosis, lower rates of liver fibrosis. In some studies, a reduced risk of liver cancer. Those findings are real. They have been replicated multiple times. I am not disputing them. But here is what every headline left out. Those studies were done on people drinking black coffee, filtered coffee, no sugar, no additives, consumed after a meal, in people without significant pre-existing metabolic dysfunction. That is a very specific cup of coffee. Now look at what most people are actually drinking. They wake up. They have not eaten anything. Their cortisol is already elevated from the natural awakening response. I will explain exactly what that means in a moment. And the first thing they put in their body is a large coffee with flavored syrup, or sweetened creamer, or condensed milk. Sometimes 2 of those. Sometimes all 3. That is not the cup of coffee in the study. That is not even in the same category. A large flavored latte from a typical coffee chain contains between 30 and 50 grams of sugar. Most of it is fructose or sucrose. And unlike glucose, which your muscles, your brain, and virtually every cell in your body can use, fructose can only be processed in one place, your liver. So that entire sugar load travels through what is called the portal vein and lands directly on your liver every single morning before you have eaten a single bite of food. People spend years worrying about their liver and alcohol. Meanwhile, they are doing this at 7 a.m. and nobody is connecting the dots. There is one more piece of this that almost nobody talks about. A meaningful percentage of lower grade commercial coffee is contaminated with something called ochratoxin A. That is a mycotoxin, a mold byproduct that develops in coffee beans during improper drying and storage. Your liver neutralizes it using glutathione, which is essentially its internal cleaning supply. Finite. Non-renewable on demand. Your liver has a limited amount of cleaning supplies. Every time it deals with a toxin, it is drawing down its reserves. And most people are starting that process before breakfast. Most people know the headline. Nobody reads the footnotes. The footnotes are where the actual story is. Now let me show you what is actually happening inside your liver when you drink coffee. Not the summary version, the real mechanism. Because once you understand this, the protocol I am going to give you later will make complete sense, and you will actually follow it. Let's start with the caffeine itself. When caffeine enters your body, it does not float around freely. Almost 100% of it gets routed directly to your liver for processing. The liver uses a specific enzyme to break it down. That enzyme is called CYP1A2. Think of it like the customs officer at a major international airport. Every single molecule of caffeine that enters your body has to pass through that officer before it is cleared to go anywhere else. The officer checks it, processes it, breaks it down, and sends it on its way. Now, what happens when the airport is understaffed, or when 50 flights all land at once? The system backs up, processing slows. Everything that was supposed to move efficiently starts piling up in the terminal. That is exactly what happens in a liver that is already under stress. The caffeine stays in circulation longer, and the liver, which has 20 other jobs to do, has to keep working that backlog. Here's something that makes this even more interesting. CYP1A2 activity is genetically determined. Some people are fast metabolizers. Caffeine is in and out in 3 to 4 hours. Other people are slow metabolizers. In them, caffeine can stay active in the bloodstream for 8, 9, 10 hours. same cup of coffee. Completely different experience inside the body. If you drink coffee in the afternoon and still cannot sleep at midnight, you probably already know which category you are in. Now let's talk about cortisol. This is the part almost nobody is explaining. When you wake up in the morning, your body goes through something called the cortisol awakening response. In the first 30 to 45 minutes after you open your eyes, cortisol levels spike naturally. This is by design. It is your body's built-in ignition system. It mobilizes energy, sharpens alertness, and gets everything moving. That peak is already happening, whether you drink coffee or not. Now, what happens when you drink coffee directly into that window? Caffeine stimulates additional cortisol release. So instead of working with your body's natural rhythm, letting that cortisol rise, do its job and come back down. You are amplifying it, extending it past its natural duration. And when cortisol spikes that hard, insulin follows. And when insulin spikes, your liver releases stored glucose into the bloodstream. Your blood sugar is now rising. Not because you ate anything, because of a hormonal chain reaction that started with a cup of coffee. You are pouring gasoline on a fire that was already burning just fine on its own. Do this every single day for months, for years, and you are running your metabolic system in a state of chronic low-grade stress from the moment you wake up. Now there is one more layer here, and this one is specific to your brewing method. Coffee beans naturally contain compounds called diterpenes, specifically cafestol and kawal. These are oily molecules present in every coffee bean on the planet. And when coffee is brewed without a paper filter, in a French press, a percolator, or as espresso, those diterpenes pass directly into your cup. A paper filter traps them. Up to 90% of them. They stay in the filter and go in the trash. But if you are using a French press every morning, and a lot of people who think they are being health conscious are doing exactly this, you are getting the full dose of cafestol with every single cup. Why does that matter? Cafestol is one of the most potent dietary compounds known to raise LDL cholesterol. It does this by directly interfering with bile acid regulation in the liver. The liver uses bile acids to manage cholesterol. Cafestol disrupts that system. Cholesterol accumulates. Liver inflammation follows. There was a study published in 1981 in the New England Journal of Medicine that connected unfiltered coffee consumption to elevated LDL and liver stress markers. 1981, over 40 years ago. That study has been sitting in the literature ever since. Of course, nobody talks about it. So let me put all of this together for you. When you drink coffee the way most people drink it, here's what your liver is handling simultaneously, before 8 in the morning. A full caffeine load routed through a system that may already be backed up. An amplified cortisol spike driving blood sugar dysregulation. A dose of cafestol disrupting bile acid regulation. And if there is sugar in that cup, a direct fructose load arriving through the portal vein on an empty stomach. All at once, every day, now. Here's what is pretty wild about all of this. None of it means coffee is bad. It means context is everything. And once you understand the mechanism, fixing it takes about 30 seconds of adjustment to your morning routine. Let me show you the numbers now. Not the version that makes a headline, the actual data, with the conditions that the headlines always forget to mention. In 2017, researchers published a major meta-analysis in the British Medical Journal. They reviewed over 200 meta-analyses covering coffee and health outcomes. And yes, they confirmed associations between coffee consumption and reduced risk of liver cirrhosis, fibrosis, and liver cancer. Real data. I am not disputing it. But the study was looking at filtered black coffee, no additives, in populations without pre-existing metabolic syndrome. That same year, a separate analysis out of the University of Southampton looked at coffee consumption, specifically in people with metabolic dysfunction, high fasting insulin, elevated triglycerides, central adiposity, the classic picture of a liver that is already under strain. In that population, the protective effect essentially disappeared. In some markers, the direction reversed. Same beverage, opposite outcome. Because the liver processing that coffee was not the same liver. That is not a footnote. That is the entire story. Now here's the one that genuinely gets me. A study published in 1981 in the New England Journal of Medicine was tracking cardiovascular risk in populations across Scandinavia, regions with some of the highest coffee consumption on Earth. And researchers noticed something that did not fit the expected pattern. People drinking boiled, unfiltered coffee had significantly higher LDL cholesterol than people drinking filtered coffee. Not marginally higher, significantly. They traced it back to cafestol and kawal, the diterpenes I explained in the last block. That study has been in the literature for over 40 years. The mechanism is fully understood. It has been replicated. And yet the most popular brewing methods in specialty coffee culture right now, French press, espresso, unfiltered pour over, are precisely the methods that concentrate those compounds. Utterly ridiculous. Now let me give you the direct comparison so you can see exactly what we are talking about. French press versus paper filtered drip coffee. Same beans, same quantity. The French press delivers roughly 30 times more cafestol. 30 times. The only variable is the filter. Black coffee consumed 90 minutes after waking versus black coffee consumed within 15 minutes of waking. Measurably different cortisol amplification, measurably different blood sugar response. You are not changing the coffee. You are changing the hormonal environment it lands in. A standard black Americano versus a large flavored latte. 0 grams of fructose to the liver versus 30 to 50 grams. Delivered in liquid form, absorbed rapidly, processed exclusively by the liver. Not even close. And here is one more data point I want you to sit with. Studies measuring liver enzyme markers, specifically ALT and AST, which are the primary indicators of liver cell stress, have consistently found that dietary fructose load is one of the strongest predictors of elevated enzymes in people who do not drink alcohol at all. Not saturated fat, not total calories, fructose. And for a large percentage of adults, the single biggest daily source of liquid fructose in their diet is not juice. It is not soda. It is their sweetened morning coffee. People go to their doctor. Liver enzymes are elevated. The doctor asks about alcohol. They say they barely drink. And nobody asks about the 2 large vanilla lattes they have been consuming every morning for the past 3 years. The answer is sitting right there in their hand at 7 a.m. All right, let's fix this. And before I give you this protocol, I want to be clear about one thing. I am not telling you to give up coffee. I am not telling you to drink half a cup of lukewarm decaf and feel virtuous about it. That is not what this is. What I am giving you is a framework that lets you keep drinking coffee and actually get the protective benefits the research was pointing to without the daily liver stress that most people are unknowingly creating every single morning. 5 rules. Rule 1. Wait 90 minutes after waking before your first cup. Your cortisol is already peaking in the first 30 to 45 minutes after you wake up. It does not need help. Drinking coffee inside that window does not give you extra energy. It just pushes that hormonal spike higher and extends it past its natural duration, which sets up the crash you feel later in the morning. Wait 90 minutes. Let your body's natural ignition system do its job first. Then add the coffee. Even pushing it to 60 minutes makes a measurable difference. This one change alone will shift how your energy behaves for the rest of the day. Most people notice it within a week. Rule 2. Use a paper filter. If your daily coffee comes from a French press, a percolator, or straight espresso, you are getting a full dose of cafestol every single morning. As I showed you in the data, that is a documented mechanism for elevated LDL and disrupted liver function. A paper filter removes up to 90% of those compounds. That is not a minor improvement. That is essentially solving the problem. Switch to drip with a paper filter, or a pour over with a paper filter. Keep the French press for weekends if you love it, but your daily driver needs a filter. And while you are making that switch, choose a light or medium roast. More chlorogenic acid, which is the actual anti-inflammatory compound in coffee. Less of the oxidized compounds that come from over-roasting. The dark roast that most commercial coffee is sold as has substantially less of the beneficial compound than what was used in the studies showing liver protection. Good thing I am telling you this now. Rule 3. Eat something small before your first cup. I am not asking you to cook a full breakfast. A handful of walnuts, 2 eggs, a small piece of cheese, a tablespoon of almond butter. Protein or fat. Not a muffin, not a piece of fruit. A small amount of food buffers the cortisol response and significantly reduces the gastric acid spike that comes from caffeine on a completely empty stomach. It takes 30 seconds. It makes a real difference. Rule 4. Remove the liquid sugar completely. This is the non-negotiable one. Flavored syrups, sweetened creamers, condensed milk, flavored instant coffee packets. All of it goes. I know that sounds harsh, but the fructose load in a sweetened coffee drink is one of the most direct daily inputs to liver fat accumulation in the modern diet. Liquid form means rapid absorption. Empty stomach means it hits the liver hard and fast, every morning, before anything else. If you need something in your coffee, use cinnamon. I did an entire video on what cinnamon does to blood sugar, and it is worth watching after this one. Or a small amount of heavy cream, which has essentially 0 sugar and does not spike insulin. But the syrup has to go. That is the rule. Rule 5. If your liver enzymes are elevated, 1 cup per day, maximum, until they normalize. If your most recent blood work showed elevated ALT or AST, even mildly, your liver is under active stress. Your CYP1A2 system is compromised. Your glutathione reserves are being depleted faster than they are being replenished. Adding 2 or 3 cups of coffee per day to that liver is asking an already overwhelmed system to take on more. 1 cup. Filtered. light or medium roast. After a small meal, 90 minutes after waking. That is the exact version of coffee that showed liver protective effects in the research, not the other version, that one. Get your liver enzymes retested in 60 days. Compare the numbers before and after. The results will speak for themselves. Here's the full protocol one more time. 1. Wait 90 minutes after waking. 2. Eat something small first. 3. Paper filter, light or medium roast. 4. No sugar, no syrup, cinnamon or heavy cream only. 5. If your enzymes are elevated, 1 cup maximum until they come down. Try this for 30 days. Get your blood work done before and after if you can. Prove it to yourself. So let me bring this back to where we started. You were told coffee is good for your liver, and that is true, under very specific conditions that almost nobody is actually following. Black coffee, filtered, light or medium roast, no sugar, no additives, consumed after a small meal, 90 minutes after waking, in a liver that is not already under metabolic stress. That is the cup that protects your liver. Everything else, and for most people, everything else is exactly what they have been drinking every single morning, is a different story. The good news is that fixing this does not require giving anything up. It requires doing the same thing you were already doing, just differently. A paper filter instead of a French press, 90 minutes instead of immediately, cinnamon instead of syrup. That is the entire intervention for most people. Small adjustments, real mechanisms, measurable outcomes. Now here's what I want you to do. Try this protocol for 30 days, and then come back to this video and leave a comment telling me what changed. Your energy in the morning, your digestion, how you feel by mid-afternoon. If you had blood work done, tell me what happened to your liver enzymes. I read those comments, every single one. If this video gave you something useful, hit the like button. It helps other people find this information. And if you are not subscribed yet, do that now. We talked today about fructose going directly to the liver every morning. But there is another compound doing something very similar, and it is hiding in foods that appear on every clean eating list. Foods that doctors recommend. Foods that most people consider completely safe. For that information, watch this video right here. I am Andrew Collins, and I will see you in the next video.